Welcome.
PR Connections Radio presents. This episode of Thinking into Results is brought to you by Classy Communications PR and Advertising. Classy Communications provides public relations and marketing solutions for businesses, professionals, and nonprofit organizations. They can deliver the true meaning of your business with press releases, social media marketing, web development, email marketing, book publishing, and much more. Wherever your potential clients are, they can help you connect with them. Visit classycommunications.net to learn more about their suite of services that can help your business stand out from the rest. Classy Communications is your solution for business success.
I guess you can be very successful without one, and probably some people do. But I would not have accomplished anywhere near what I have accomplished without a mentor. I have had a number of mentors, and my whole life has changed dramatically. I went from going nowhere to having a business that operates all over the world. If you want to win in a big way, you want to get a mentor. It's almost like getting a direct pipeline from their mind to your mind, where you're gaining all their wisdom, all their experience, and all the studying that they've done over a number of years. And like that, you get it all in a short period of time. Are mentors important? Well, I'm going to tell you, mentors literally changed the course of my life. Let's take a look at what thinking into results is and what it could do for you, how it came about. You see, my life had changed dramatically. I went from earning nothing to earning over $1 million a year. And I was sitting one day and I was thinking, how did all this happen? Do you know, I was reading Think and Grow Rich. I was studying Earl Nightingale's material. But a lot of people have read those books and studied Earl's material. And they weren't accomplishing what I was accomplishing. So I had to ask myself, what am I doing so different? You see, I had been raised to believe if you're going to earn a lot of money, you've got to be really smart. I was earning over $1 million a year, and I didn't think I was that bright. I was also raised to believe if you don't go to school, you can't win. Well, I hadn't gone to school. I went to high school for about 2 months. I didn't have a good job. I owned the entire company. If you want to be happy, healthy, and prosperous, it's all here. Thinking into Results is going to show you how to get it. If what I've said really triggered something in your mind and you're thinking maybe, contact the certified PGI consultant, hit the button, leave the information, do yourself a favor, sit down and talk to them about what this program can do for you. This very well could be the decision that will change the rest of your life.
Thank you, Bob. Welcome to Thinking in Results, presented by S&J Mentoring. And we show you how to accomplish your dreams. Today, I have my co-host, John Gage. He's a longtime student of Thinking in Results. I'm Sid Maestri. I'm a certified consultant. And I think, John, we've got an exciting show today. Can you kind of share a little something that we're going to be covering?
Well, yeah, we're actually going to be covering, it's going to be 2 parts. Today is part 1 of absolute faith, no matter what. And, I know you have a little bit to say on faith, so I'll let you talk a little bit about that. And then I would like to discuss the definitions of faith. Should be interesting.
Thank you, John. The importance of faith. John's got some definitions, but I think I'm just looking at it as to have faith that you can do something, that something's going to happen, and you don't know how to do it. You don't know where to learn about it. But if you have the faith and know what you want, we have what we suggest is that you're writing out your goal and using repetition. The more repetition, the more the goal gets real, reaching the point where you know you can do it. A quick story. The foundation for Thinking in Results with Bob Proctor goes back over 60 years reading Think and Grow Rich. And of course, I didn't grab my book. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. The research on this started probably around 1910, 1915, was published in 1937, has sold over 100 million copies around the world. And it came out of Napoleon Hill. The author was a cub reporter, and he was given the assignment to interview Andrew Carnegie, who was the wealthiest man in the world and had a huge steel company. And he had thoughts or philosophy. He knew how he did what he did, but he knew most other people that were successful and had achieved a lot in life, they all passed on. They all died. No one knew how they did it. So he wanted Napoleon Hill to go out and interview 500 people, accomplished people that Andrew Carnegie would introduce him to. And he asked him if he wanted to do that. And he gave Napoleon Hill a minute. Now I heard a recording of Napoleon Hill describing it. In 29 seconds, he said yes. He would spend 20 years interviewing these people, putting together the best success steps, and he had to pay his own way. Andrew Carnegie wasn't going to subsidize him, but he agreed to do it. And then Andrew Carnegie asked him to write down a statement. Andrew Carnegie, I'm not only going to match your achievements in life, I'm going to challenge you at the post and pass you at the grandstand. And Napoleon Hill describes it. He threw his pencil down and said, I don't believe that. Andrew Carnegie said, I know you don't believe it, but would you read this twice a day, morning and night, in front of a mirror? Do that for 30 days. Napoleon Hill said, I can do that. So he's doing it. First week, nothing happens. Second week, he's starting to see a glimmer of light. After the third week, that light was getting pretty big. But in 30 days, he knew he could do it. He knew he could do it. And that's the strongest thing that we teach is the repetition. Our program's thinking in results. You have to change your thinking to change your results. We show you how to change your thinking. And the cornerstone of that is repetition, to reprogram your mind. We call it your paradigm, habitual habits. Repetition, 30 plus days, and you reach the point of faith and belief that you can accomplish what you desire. It's magic. John, tell me, what's on your mind?
Well, actually, I agree. But I really do feel that faith is a cornerstone rather than repetition, and I'll explain why within these next two. It's going to take 2 sessions to kind of demonstrate how faith really works, because it is so important to accomplishing your goals and overcoming all of the things that are going to happen. Like I said, I wanted to kind of define it. And the reason I do this is I kind of want everybody to understand that here's what Merriam-Webster's dictionary says, but how do we apply it to our lives? Which is slightly different from what the dictionary says. I'm going to read a couple of them. There's several of them in here, but one of the first ones is allegiance to duty or a person or loyalty, belief and trust in and loyalty to a higher being, whoever that may be. And the third, something that is believed, especially with strong conviction. And I read another interesting definition. I wrote it down because I can't, quite put it to memory, but I believe, yeah. Hold on a second. Oh, here it is. My notes are everywhere. Sorry, guys. Faith means being sure of the things we dream of, knowing that something is real, even if we don't see it. I think that really fits what we're talking about, don't you, Sid? You want to know where that came from?
I like that. I could guess, but you're going to tell me.
It is Hebrews 11:1. It's a very
Yes.
old faith. This is my point. You can go back to the Old Testament. You can go back thousands of years. Faith is extremely important to accomplishing your goals, your dreams, acquiring money, everything. Faith is exceptionally important to it. And we learn it early. And so I was studying and looking things up and figuring out how I wanted to put things together for the podcast. And my wife and I, we were enjoying outside here in Florida. I don't know, when people are getting wet and cold, we're 75, 80 degrees. So we were kind of sitting there. I was actually reading Think and Grow Rich out loud. And by the way, I have my copy right here. While I was doing this, it's almost because we talk a lot about vibration and how things are attracted to you as you think about them. And here I'm thinking about faith and how can I help people understand how faith works? And sure enough, it literally in live action happens right in front of me. And this father and this son, the father's riding a bicycle. The son couldn't be more than 4 years old. He's a little bitty guy riding a bicycle with training wheels. And he's following along with dad. And you could see the confidence exuding from this young man. He was just all proud of the fact he was riding the bicycle and riding along with his dad. And he kind of falls over. His dad gets up and encourages him, and he's like, "Yeah." And he gets right back on the bicycle and rides away. And my thought, I was thinking and talking with my wife about it. What causes that? Well, when you're 4 years old, you're learning things. You have confidence in your parents because, and you have faith in them. They say you can do it. You're like, okay, I can do it. And so he's teaching you how to ride a bicycle. And I'm using this because everybody's learned how to ride a bicycle, or most everybody. I can't speak for everybody, but everybody I grew up with rode a bicycle. And you ride this bicycle, you learn how to ride this bicycle with confidence because you have faith. You see yourself accomplishing riding this bicycle. You know, this little child wasn't just riding a bicycle. He was riding probably a rocket bike, trying to do fancy jumps or go to space. I know when I was younger, when I was learning to ride a bicycle, true story, I pretended to be Evel Knievel. Actually, my brother and I both did. And for those of you who don't understand who Evel Knievel is, he's on YouTube. But this is a man that used to do jumps. He was a daredevil, and he broke every bone in his body at least one time. And we knew this as children, but we still wanted to be that person that was on that motorcycle, running down the ramp, hitting the ramp, and jumping 15, 20 school buses in a row and making it on the other end without cracking our skull. And that's who we were when we were learning to do this. So there was this huge emotional attachment to learning to ride a bicycle because we equated it with that. And by attaching emotion to your faith, it gives you a much clearer vision, and it also helps build that faith, because this is telling your subconscious, when you give it that emotional tug, it tells your subconscious this is real and it's something that's going to happen. So your subconscious is all of a sudden it's now okay, how are we going to do this? And this is the basis to how faith works. And seeing this child and his father and watching this child have confidence on this bicycle brought back memories from a long time ago. And if you guys look up Evel Knievel, you'll have an idea how old I am. But this is something that really sets home and shows you by demonstration that you kind of have to be like a child when you're searching for your dreams, because then all this vibration, everything is attracted to you for that dream. And I know that we've all had those goals, whether it's learning to drive a car, ride a bicycle, or something even more. Like the American Steel story that you were mentioning earlier, Sid. I know there's more to that story. Would you care to share? Because that has to do with faith too, and how, but it's a little different scenario than what I just went through, but it's still faith-based and how it works. Would you share that with us a little bit and tell the good folks out there why it's important?
I would love to, John. I thought you would never ask. This is about the creation of U.S. Steel. Now we're talking 1900, 1901. And Andrew Carnegie, wealthiest man in the world, had the biggest steel company. And the idea, his primary assistant that was running his business was, I want to say a young man, he was 38 years old, Charles Schwab. And he had this idea to bring not only Carnegie Steel, but some other independent steel companies that they could all work together under one umbrella. And he took it to J.P. Morgan. If you can go to Wikipedia and see who he was a key financial player back at the turn of the century of putting big deals together. So Charles Schwab is invited to a dinner. I believe there were 70 or 80 gentlemen in there, all millionaires plus. So there's $5-6 billion represented in the room. They told him, keep your comments short, like 15 or 20 minutes, because you'll put everybody to sleep. Well, he talked for 90 minutes. Unfortunately, no one recorded it, but there was an article in the paper that's the story spelled out in Think and Grow Rich. He sat down with J.P. Morgan, who was interested in what he was talking about. They got together and they picked out the companies they wanted to bring together with Carnegie Steel. And they were looking to do a $1 billion deal. And Andrew Carnegie's company was 400 million, is what he wanted. And then they brought the other companies in together, and they went public and raised $1 billion for everybody to get paid. How does this work with faith? Well, I made a couple of notes, and there was representing four steps. Schwab had the faith. No one else knew anything about this. Maybe they're thinking about it, but he had the faith, and he had the desire to create this, execute his plan. He had imagination to be able to picture what he wanted to do. And the best part was he had persistence. And persistence trumps everything. Doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down, you get up. So we end up with U.S. Steel. No one said it could be done, bringing all the key steel companies together. In fact, there's one story where Andrew Carnegie ended up on a ship going to England, because he lived in Scotland, and he was with J.P. Morgan. And the quote is, Andrew Carnegie said, "I should have asked for another 100 million. And Morgan says, "Well, I would have given it to you." So that sort of finishes our story. It started with faith.
You want to know something? Do you want to know how much money that would be today?
I know it's in the
it's 37,377,823,823.53 is what $1 billion is worth from 1901 to today. Just so people can have kind of a concept of how much money that was back then.
I don't think any companies are going public. Well, I would be guessing, so I have to research this. Are companies going public now for $1 billion?
Mhm.
Possibly.
Yeah,
I will do some research. But I'm going to throw this back to you, John, because you've got a personal story on faith that I'd love to hear.
well, I do. I mean, and I'll touch a little bit on it this week, but I'll touch more on it next week because it's pretty in depth, and it kind of shows people how faith can drive somebody to accomplish. And basically, I went from, and this is just a brief overview. I went from being just absolutely depressed and bitter to finding the woman of my dreams and turning my life into a place that my whole life is a happy place, not just going somewhere for it. I desired it and I sought it out. And I did what was necessary to make it happen, but that all had to happen with faith. And this week I kind of want to touch on what what faith is and kind of how we go about getting it. When you read Think and Grow Rich, he says faith is a state of mind which may be induced or created by affirmation, which we talk about, or repeated instruction to the subconscious mind through the principle of autosuggestion. So basically what he's saying, if you tell your mind something long enough, it'll believe it. We all know if you tell a lie, how many times have you heard this said, and how many times have you witnessed it? I mean, you're only a day or two older than I am, where people have told lies so often that not only do they believe it to be fact now, and it's something that never happened. And criminals, they say criminals, when you first start out in criminality, so to speak, you start out kind of being I'm going to do what? And then a few weeks, couple months later, this isn't so bad. At least I have money to pay my bills. So you're starting to justify it. And this is how it works. And it's a slow process, but you have to remember, this is something you're putting in your mind every single day, even if it's just a little bit. That's why we talk about the auto-suggestion. What is it? Once in the morning, once in the evening, and throughout the day, just kind of look at it. So it's really doesn't take up much time, right? 10, 15, 20 minutes total of your whole day. And it's enough to start changing how your subconscious sees things. And they say within 6 or 7 months, a criminal literally not only accepts it, but sees it as a proper way of life because he doesn't see any need to get out of it. From what I understand, I've seen parts of Breaking Bad, but from what I understand with the show Breaking Bad, that's kind of what happened to this guy. He was a chemist. He had cancer and wanted to create enough funds for his family when he died, and he ended up going from being this teacher that everybody loved to this criminal that everybody was afraid of because he developed this sense of This is mine. So,
John,
this is kind of where this happens. Yes, sir.
I want to add something to that because I was thinking about the individual, just young person just starting out, and it's who you're hanging around with. That's the environment. That's who you're hanging around with, and
you're hearing what they're saying.
I'm sorry.
You're hearing what they're saying, and what's coming in. So go continue. Yeah. You're right.
Well, your example, and I don't remember the character's name, but he's a chemistry teacher, and he has a talent and wants to make some money, and gradually he got deeper and deeper into what he was doing and hanging out with some pretty bad people, doing business with some pretty bad people. So that was his story. I like to make a comment when you're about a quote from the book, Think and Grow Rich. Faith is the eternal elixir which gives life, power, and action to the impulse of thought. An example, we were talking about the repetition. And I put these in bold, some of these words in bold, and in first person. I believe whatever I repeat to myself, whether this statement is true or false, if I repeat it, that lie over and over, I'll eventually accept that lie as truth. I will believe it to be my truth. And what we become, what we think about, I am because of my dominating thoughts, which I placed in my mind through repetition. And we're dealing with positive affirmations. The positive, let's say thoughts, the negative thoughts, the I can't do it thoughts. As you're coming to thinking results, we're going to change all that. We'll show you how to change it.
Exactly.
I think John has a little poem to share with us.
I do. Like I said, the part of the reason we're making this two parts is it's really too much to discuss in just 30 minutes because it's so valuable and so important to accomplishing what you wish to accomplish. But let's kind of this poem we're going to read again. It's from an author that's unknown, but I really like it because it really hits the theme of what faith is and how it works. So, if you think you are beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you like to win, but you think you can't, it's almost certain you won't. If you think you'll lose, you're lost. For out of the world we find, success begins with a fellow's will. It's all in the state of mind. If you think you are outcast, you are. If you've got to think high to rise, you've got to be sure of yourself before you can ever win a prize. Life's battles don't go away. Life's battles don't away go to the stronger or faster man. But soon or late, the man who wins is the man who thinks he can. And that's
Thank you, John.
He has this persistence. So we're going to kind of wind down a little bit. It's getting close to that time, and we just want to thank everyone for sharing your time with us. It's very much appreciated. And if you wish to learn how to accomplish your dreams, well, you can contact us. We have a new website, www.sj-mentoring.com. Again, that's www.sj-mentoring.com. And if you could, please leave a like and a share. We'd appreciate that. It helps the algorithm and it helps people. Maybe it'll help somebody who needs our help. And we'd like to invite you to join us next week as we continue part 2 of our 13-part step series of absolute faith no matter what. Persistence. Space fuel. I know Sid likes that. And S&J mentoring, yes, sir. Go ahead.
I'm just going to add the law of attraction. Like attracts like.
Absolutely. So, S&J mentoring, again, we thank you so much. But remember, S&J mentoring, we show you how to accomplish your dreams. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thank you, John. See you next week.
Absolutely. Okay. Well,
We're still on.
That's an awkward silence.
Yeah, part 2.
I'm sure that part 2 will be interesting. I know we're having some technical difficulties, everybody, so please bear with us. But yes, sir.
I want to stand corrected. It's the law of vibration is like attracts like. Whatever you're vibrating to, picture in your mind's eye.
Absolutely. Since we have this extra time, vibration is important. And when you start building your faith, because it is a process and it takes time, but you start building, you're adding faith to it's one of these emotions like love and that kind of thing. And you start emotionalizing it. And we talk a lot about that. So when you emotionalize it, it creates a vibration, a much higher vibration, which attracts those things to you. So please tune in next week for part 2. It's going to be interesting. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thank you, John. I'll throw this one out there. I just wrote, we're going to show you how to raise your vibration to the level of what you desire. Every time you picture in your mind's eye, you're vibrating at the same energy of what you want. I think that's it, John.
I do too.
Or maybe not. Part 2.
Well, like I said, I do know that we are having some technical difficulties.
I was thinking, do we have another poem?
Well, actually, I was thinking, we're talking about faith. Faith is so important that there's not a religion out there that doesn't use faith, because
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.